Hello, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Spyridoula and I am a counseling psychotherapist in Psychotherapy Now. So today we're doing this live since last week we asked you about what you would like to hear from us. And you said your answers, so we have written down everything that you sent to us, and today we will try to answer some of your questions. I think some of you already saw in our live that our topic for today is quitters and doers. So one of the things that you really wanted to hear about is when do we quit, why do we quit, and how do we have this behavior in our life. So first I want to ask you a very, very simple question. Do you remember when did you start quitting? Because I have the impression that sometimes we are thinking, okay, yeah, I'm quitting, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to do this. But when did you start thinking about it? What was the moment that you actually started thinking as a person who wants to quit? We cannot say that we were born this way. We cannot say that this is who we are. Most of the things that we actually do is things that we learn how to do. So the question is, when did you learn to quit? So let's see about quitters a little bit. So most of the times when a person quits, has some emotions that are accompany this behavior. So for example, they feel sad, or sometimes you quit about something that you're doing because you are feeling angry, because you are feeling disappointed, because you are feeling that you will not have the energy to keep it until the end, for example. And I think that the most important thought in your head is, I'm not good enough. Think of a situation that you quitted recently. What was it? What were you thinking? What were you feeling before you quit? I have to tell you also that if you have any comments, any things that you want to agree, any things you want to disagree, please write the comments below. We already have an answer. When we don't see immediate change or growth, I understand you mean this is a situation where you quit, and I totally agree with you, or when we have an illusion that is a dead-end situation. Of course, when you feel that you are coming to a dead end, you will stop trying because you don't see any possibility of achieving in this situation. You don't see any positive result coming. So yes, of course, you will quit. Thank you so much for your comment, Students Wonder. Thank you very much. So, quitting is something that we actually learn. As you learn to dress up, as you learn to eat when you're a child, you learn when you have to keep trying and when you have to quit at the same time. Let's see some examples. As children, sometimes, of course, we have our parents and they try to teach the best to us and they want our lives to be happy and successful. And as a result, they try to motivate us to do more stuff and even more and even more and even more. But there is a point in our lives that we actually think, okay, then how many things should we do? What is enough for my parents? When should I stop trying? And in some families, you can see that it doesn't matter how long you try. The more you will try, the more they want from you, and the more you have to keep trying. And sometimes you see that it's very common that your parents, maybe you can remember from your childhood as well, they focused on the result of your effort. You were trying, okay? You kept trying, you did your best. And maybe you put all the energy that you have and all the effort that you have in trying to be the number one person. But maybe in the between something went wrong. And in the end, your parents said to you, oh, but maybe you didn't try enough, but you tried enough. So what you get as a message at this moment is that it doesn't matter how hard you try, it only matters to have a positive result. And this is a mechanism that is going on in your head as you keep growing as well, for example, because then you are trying only because you want to get positive results, but this is not happening always, of course, right? So that's the thing. This is a way we can actually create quitters, by focusing on the result of the effort and not the effort itself. Sometimes we also see that maybe you remember as a child that your parents said, oh, I will do it for you. You try to do something, but they wanted to do it for you because you were not fast enough. You were not effective enough. And in the end of the day, you were not good enough. So actually, when parents do stuff for you, they give you the message that you are not able to do it. You are not capable of achieving. So they are the ones that are good enough, and they know what to do, and they know how it should be done and everything. So yes, they need to give you your space, your time, your, I don't know, whatever else you think it's important to you, to act for yourself. This way you learn to take the responsibility of your actions and also to believe more in yourself. I see Dimitra is asking something, focus on being perfectionist maybe. Yeah, of course, when you focus to be a perfectionist, you're actually living a bit of an illusion, because there is no thing as perfection, right? What is perfect? What do you define as perfect? So yeah, when you try to be perfect, you try to be something that it actually doesn't exist. Like, no. So another way that we become quitters in our lives is when our parents are overprotective. What does it mean? So some parents have the tendency to just protect you from not doing mistakes, from not failing in your life, from not coming over difficult or challenging or, I don't know, very, very hard situations in your life. And at this moment, when you face failure and when you face a challenge, you don't know what to do, actually. So you will quit. Because you always had your parents protecting you, taking the responsibility, taking, I don't know, the mistakes to themselves, and don't really give you the opportunity to make mistakes yourself, so you can try yourself out to see what is working, what is not working, what is your strength in the situation. Also, there is another thing, like in Greece it's very common. I don't know about other countries, maybe you can write in the comments below if you want. But in Greece we have this very nice tradition of comparison. We compare. We compare our children to others. We compare our children to the neighbor, to our uncle's children, to a friend of the family, to somebody else. So most of the times we say, do you see how this person is behaving or acting or achieving stuff in their lives? You should be like this person. So what is the message behind this situation? You actually ask your child to compete with somebody else, to try to reach where somebody else is already. And of course, I see a question. We should take into consideration the fact that positive feelings might make us quitters. I'm good enough at this. I don't need to try more. Focus on effort. I do agree with this. Yes. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. Yes, also, when you think that you are good enough, it's also a possibility that you will also quit. Thank you so much. This is a very interesting addition to what we say. But let me get back to the comparison a little bit. So the moment that you compare yourself to others, you stop competing to yourself. Because you want to be as good as somebody else. So you have the standard of somebody else. You have the image of somebody else achieving stuff, and this is what you try to do as well. But this is a big trap, because when you see what others are doing, you forget sometimes to see what you are doing. We are not all good at the same things. For example, I was a terrible, terrible student at mathematics, like really terrible. Of course, I could not compete with the children or students that were very good at mathematics, because yes, I would quit if I was comparing myself to them. So we need to compare ourselves with ourselves. Who you are now, who you want to be in the future, who you want to become. And that's a very, very big power, because then you start having expectations from yourself, by yourself, to yourself. So everything is about yourself. You don't care what the other person is doing, and you also don't care what the other person will say about you, because you are competing to the person you were yesterday and to the person that you want to become tomorrow. And no, let's see now. How do we create doers, right? Because we saw different things about quitting. Why do we quit? And also the common feeling that most of the people that quit share is the fear of being judged, is the fear of being criticized, is the fear of being rejected. So if I'm not good enough, I will not be accepted by others. If I'm not good enough, I will not have, I don't know, so many friends around me. If I'm not good enough, so this sentence, if I'm not good enough, can have so many different endings and meanings to each person. And that's the thing. It all starts from this thought sometimes. So the question is, what is actually going to happen if you're not good enough? Like, we think, but do we have an answer? Do you actually know what is going to happen if you're not good enough? I don't know, at your job on a specific day, if you don't complete a task at the university today, but you do it tomorrow maybe, what is going to happen? And a friend of mine told me a very nice category. So when we wrote the question about if you are a quitter or a doer, she sent a very nice category about procrastination. She said, I'm not a quitter, I'm not a doer, but I procrastinate a lot. So procrastination is also something that has to do with perfectionists as well. But let's see now, how do we create a doer? How can we be doers? How can we insist in doing stuff in our lives and keep it one step forward each time? So first thing we need to remember is that failure is not a bad thing. It's not a bad experience. It's not the best experience to have. Like, you don't feel like the best person in the world when you come across it. But at the same time, it's something so meaningful, so useful, because through failure, you can learn. Each failure is a lesson to you. Each failure is something that can take you one step further. Let's take an example. You go for a job interview, right? You go there, you are very well prepared, but something happens and you don't get the job. And in the end of the day, you hear from your potential employer that, okay, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your time, but you're not what we're looking for. So this failure that you are not what they're looking for can actually teach you what is the thing they're looking for. Because you get a feedback why you got rejected. What's the reason? What is the thing that you don't have? And you can actually work on the skill that you can have later. If, for example, they tell you, okay, we don't want you in this job because we need a person that smiles more, or we need a person that is more communicative than you are, for example, then you can think and you say, okay, so what I need to my next interview is to be more smiley and to try to communicate more with people. You have already 2 hints of how you can improve yourself. So failing at this job is actually a tool to go and achieve more in the next interview of yours. So this is the first thing we need to remember. We need to embrace failure and learn from it. The other thing is we need to remember the steps in the between when you have the start point and the goal. Goal setting is a very, very important thing. Why? Because sometimes we have the goal, but we tend to forget that there are so many steps in the between that we need to take in order to get there. Imagine if you are in the bottom of the sea, like down, very low. Okay. And you need to go to the surface. You can't just jump up there. You need to swim, you need to move your legs, you need to move your hands, you need to put effort in this thing. And slowly you start going towards the surface. And at some point, of course, you get there. And I think that most of the time, this is a trap that our head brings to us. You need to get there now. No, you don't need to get there now, but now you need to design the steps that you need to follow in order to get there. Right? I think it makes sense, or I hope it makes sense. So yes, of course, you can create a plan in your head, break it in smaller pieces, and then follow it. Maybe you want to lose weight. You cannot say, okay, tomorrow I will be. That's not happening. And if you have this expectation from yourself, it's very, very possible that tomorrow you will quit because you have an expectation that it's not true. So what you need to do is you need to see the goals that you need to put in the between, right? So if you want to lose weight, for example, you need to start thinking, okay, what am I eating? What should I get out from my diet? What should I bring in my diet? Maybe I'm not eating so many vegetables. I have to bring more vegetables when I'm eating. Do I exercise? Yes. Okay. Do I sleep well? No. I have to check on my sleep. So each time you decide to put small goals, achievable goals, because this will give you the motivation to keep going. If your goal is something huge, it's more likely that you will quit. There is one more comment. Thank you. Moreover, there is a great need for pauses, not only going forward. Yes, you're absolutely right, and thank you so much for this. Yes, you need to pause sometimes. You need to give the time to yourself to absorb what you have done, to rest, so you actually charge your batteries to be ready for later, and to, just to think of your next steps, your next moves, without actually doing something at this moment. So thank you so much, Mary. This is very important what you say at the moment. Also, the next thing is, as we said before, you need to compare yourself to yourself. You can think, you can write, you can discuss with yourself who you are, who you want to be. Not who your friend is, not who your colleagues are, who you are. Focus on yourself. And also, acknowledge your small victories. I know there are so many pictures around internet that they tell you evaluate your small victories, say well done to yourself, praise yourself. Yes, this is so important. Sometimes we tend to see a small picture, a small piece of a bigger picture. So if you have this picture, let's say like this is your whole actions, your behaviors, your thoughts, the situation you've been in, everything. And in this picture, somewhere, there is a failure here, let's say. You are unfair to yourself when you focus on this failure, because look how many things you have actually achieved. So of course you need to praise yourself, like you would praise a friend of yours. So when you have a friend and they actually get their master's degree, or they lose 1 kilo out of the 10, you are like, oh, well done, congratulations, 1 kilo, so you did it already. So this is something so important. A small victory, it's still a victory. It doesn't have to be huge, because the small, find who you want to be and look at this direction. Forget what others say to you. And I'm sure that if you are a quitter, and if you look in your head and go back to your past and to your memories from your childhood, from when you were a teenager, for example, you will hear a judgmental voice somewhere. You will hear a parent that didn't say, well done. Or you will find a parent that was too perfect and you had to compete this perfect parent and be perfect yourself. Or you will find a parent that didn't apologize when they had to apologize because they were too perfect to apologize to you. So all these things do play a role on the fact that now sometimes you feel that you want to quit because you will not be good enough, because you will not be accepted. Just try to reflect a bit on your thoughts if you want. Try to think what is happening the moment before you quit, right? Let's say you have a very difficult assignment for your university, and at some point you just quit. So what happened before you quit? What were you thinking? Were you thinking that it's too difficult? Were you thinking that you will not make it? Were you thinking that it's meaningless? What was your thought behind your action? And then what does this thought bring to your heart? How do you feel when you're thinking, I'm not gonna make it? What is the first emotion? What is the first thing that pops up here? This way you will think more and you will reflect more on the reasons that you are quitting. It's also a very nice idea if you start journaling, if you start to write down the things that are happening in your head. Because when they're happening inside here, it's actually very messy, right? But if you put it down on a paper, you can actually reflect on this and you can see what is the moment that I actually quit. What is my thought behind my behavior? Am I scared of something? Am I feeling guilty about something? What is happening? I see a few comments here. Thank you so much for your positive comments. A great job. Thank you so much. Wow, you made me think about so many things. What an excellent life. Thank you. Thank you, Andriana, for watching it. So that was it for today. This is all I had to say to you based on your question about doing and quitting and all these kind of situations. I would love to hear your thoughts about it. You can always send us a message when the live is over. And you can also send us any kind of questions you might have, any kind of topics you want to discuss. We have a list with the things you already sent to us, so we will try to bring up as many topics as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and we wish you a really lovely evening. Bye-bye.